Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. If you're new here, my name is Elena and I am the homeschooling mama to 3 kiddos. Here on the channel, we talk about everything from homeschooling to homemaking and all the things in between. One of those in between things is a little bit of my faith and fitness journey, and today we're going to be doing some meal prepping for my fitness journey. I decided to go on a little bit of a cutting or calorie deficit for myself. I have been doing it. I do have links to other videos if you wanted to see my fitness journey so far. During the week, I was doing fairly well on counting my macros when I was counting my macros, because I took a lot of mental health days in between there too, which was totally needed. But in the weekend, I was not doing it as well, or not doing it at all. And so I was just undoing the process that I had done during the week, making my process either non-existent or very, very slow. And so I've kind of hit this phase where I just want to give it my all for the next few weeks, and that includes meal prepping so that I can get my macros on point and just give it all that I've got. So today we're going to do some meal prepping for myself for the week. I'm going to do a couple of lunches / dinners, because there'll be some nights I'm having it for lunch, some days I'm having it for dinner, and then I'm also going to prep some breakfast as well. So let's get into it. First thing I'm going to do is throw in my chicken to cook, and I'm going to put in a cup of water into my Instant Pot, and then I am just using some of these boneless, skinless chicken breast fillets. I think I got this frozen pack from Costco, but I'm going to throw a couple of these in. It's kind of hard to tell how many pounds it'll be, so two. They look pretty large, especially that first one. So I'm going to put these two in, and then I'm going to get the chicken cooking. In the recipe that I took the inspiration from, I will try to link the website down below. It is a Chipotle barbecue chicken, and he cooks it in the pan. He uses fresh chicken or defrosted chicken and then cuts it up like in diced pieces, I think, and then cooks it in the pan. But I'm just going to put it in the Instant Pot and shred it just to make it a little bit easier for myself. So I'm going to set the Instant Pot, because this is frozen chicken. I'm going to put it for like 26 minutes and let it do its thing. The next thing I want to do is get the ground turkey in the oven. I have some ground turkey meat that I've mixed up to kind of be a meatloaf meatball mix. I will link the video up here for you where I prepped that in one of my freezer meals. So I originally prepped it to do like a family style freezer meal, where I fed the entire family on that freezer meal. But because I'm going to portion them out, I'm probably going to share some of these lunches with my husband as well. So I'm just going to prep it for us, and then we'll have that many more lunches or / dinners in my case done and ready to go. So I do have that already mixed, but if you don't have it mixed, you can just prep up some ground turkey or ground meat, whatever you prefer when you make meatloaves, and that's what we're going to do next, is some little mini turkey meatloaves. I like to put them in these silicone containers, in these cupcake holders or muffin molds. So I like to put them in here because they pop right out and they don't need any extra oil or grease or anything like that, to make it easy to come out. So I'm going to put these in here. Like I said, I got the oven going. It's preheating at 350. Since my oven is preheating, I also took out another one of these, and I'm going to mix up some egg whites with green chilies in it for some breakfast sandwiches. So here is the ground turkey meatloaf mix. I just had it in a bowl because I had it defrosting last night in the fridge. But like I said, you can make it fresh if you have it. I'm just taking this shortcut for myself. I'm going to put it on my scale, and then I will show you how I'm going to weigh them out to be individual portions. So I went ahead, and on my scale I have the bowl and the meatloaf mix, and then I'm just going to turn it on from there, and that way it'll tear out to 0, showing me 0. Milliliters and grams are the same. What I'm going to try to do is roughly put 100 grams in each one of these. So when I take it out, I just do it by hand, but if you want to use a spoon or gloves, you go ahead. So I'm going to try to get to 100 grams and then put that in each, and so then I know each one is roughly 100 grams of my mix. And like I said, I already pre-did this in the other video. I weighed everything out, and I know the macros. I put the recipe into my Fitness Pal already, so I already know what 100 grams is going to be like as far as macros. I'm gonna go ahead and press that in and do it for as many as I can here. So I was able to get about 9 I think this last one has maybe like 10 more grams, but I'm not gonna sweat it, of meatloaf mixture in it. It is also has a little bit more juice in it, so it's probably gonna be about the same. Probably use 2 per meal. So really I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4 meals and a half out here. So I'm gonna throw these in the oven and then I'm gonna get started on the egg whites. For my eggs, I'm just gonna weigh it on the scale directly because I'm just using egg whites and green chilies. This was a can of diced green chilies. I used a little bit of it the other day for eggs. My whole family is home, so there's doors openings and all kinds of stuff happening here. But that's what that background noise is. But I'm just gonna use egg whites and green chilies. If you want, of course, you can add different seasonings to this. I may put a pinch of salt in there as well, just to kind of season up the egg whites. But I think that's just all I'm gonna use. You can mix it all together on the bowl, in a bowl first if you like, especially if you want to do a mixture of eggs, whole eggs and egg whites. The whole eggs will add flavor, but it will also add fat because you're using the yolks. For me though, this is just how I'm gonna prep the egg portion of my egg sandwiches. Also, I'm using I'm making a mess. I'm using one of these silicone ones just to kind of get that circular egg, like an egg McMuffin or egg type sandwich more. I don't have an egg mold. It's on my kitchen wish list things, but it's not, you know, we're gonna make do with what we have for now. So I put the, what you heard was the pizza pan down first because after you put this in here, it is kind of flexy and fully, and so I like to have it on a pan just to make it easier to pull in and out of the oven. So like I said, I'm gonna put both of these on the scale, zero it out, and then weigh directly into the pans. So it only fits about 60 grams each, so I can either do 2 of these kind of little egg muffins per sandwich, or I can just bump it down to 60 grams, whatever I feel like that day. So I'm just gonna go up to 60 grams per container here. Okay, and now I'm gonna put in some green chili. Let's see what a tablespoon gives us. So a tablespoon is about 20 grams. So we're gonna aim for that in each one. And so now I'm gonna put these in the oven as well. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is get the quinoa rice prepped. In the recipe for the chicken, they just use cilantro lime rice, but I usually mix up my brown rice with equal parts brown rice and equal parts quinoa. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, put that in the rice cooker and get that going, and then also mix up the sauce that's eventually gonna go on the chicken. So like I said, I'm just gonna get out my rice cooker and then put together the quinoa and brown rice. If you wanted to add a little more flavoring to this, you could use broth instead of water, but I am just gonna put in water for today because I don't have any homemade broth done. And yeah, it's fine like this. And then we just set the little button to cook and leave it alone. The little rice cooker is gonna do that work for me. The timer actually went off on my Instant Pot letting me know that my chicken is done, but all I did was press cancel because it automatically goes to the keep warm feature. And I don't need it to stay warm because I'm not going to eat it right now. This is for later in the week. So I'm gonna let it naturally release the pressure while I'm prepping other things, and then I'll get to that in a little bit. So let's get the sauce that's gonna go on the chicken. I'm gonna use this bowl. It is a large bowl for the sauce, but my thinking in this is that I will measure out the sauce components in here. It's just 2 things. It's gonna be chipotle peppers and barbecue sauce. And I'm gonna put it in here because when my chicken is done cooling or the pressure is done being released from the Instant Pot, I'm going to shred it, mix it together, and I can mix it both in this bowl. So I'm gonna put this bowl on the scale, we'll zero it out, and then we'll measure in our ingredients for the sauce. So I've zeroed it out, and then I'm gonna put in, it says about a 1/4 cup. I am using this Kinder's organic mild barbecue sauce. We get this from Costco. I really like this because the ingredients are pretty clean as far as barbecue sauces goes. Your macros are gonna vary on these depending what kind of barbecue sauce and things like that that you use. So I've got in my sauce, and then I had opened previously a can of chipotle peppers. I'll show you what the can looked like. So I had opened up one of these earlier in the week, and that's just what's in this jar here. So I'm gonna use what's in our jar. So now I'm just updating it to make sure, because when I put this recipe in originally into my FitnessPal, I just kind of used generic ingredients, what they had on hand to give me an idea. But now that I have my ingredients out, I want to make sure that all my macros that I put in here, all my measurements are close as I can get to exact. So I'm just updating that. A lot of times too, I will either keep a piece of paper and pen nearby and jot down my grams and measurements, especially when I'm doing new recipes, or I will put, we have a dry erase board, like a small dry eraser board here next to me on the refrigerator, and I'll use that as well. The timer just went off in the oven though, telling me that the turkey meatloaves are just about done, so I'm going to take those out and let them cool on top and check the egg whites and see if those need a little bit more time. Oh yeah. So those look good. We're gonna let those cool. Let me check the egg whites. Definitely need some more time. They're pretty jiggly still. Let me see if I can get you close enough to see. So the egg whites are definitely gonna need more time. They're not solid yet. So we're gonna put those back in. They were in for about 20 minutes. The meatloaf was in for about 35. Well, let's set the timer for another 10 minutes for the egg whites and see, giving it a total of 30 minutes and see how it comes out then. Previously, I've made a cauliflower mashed potato mix, but I used instant potatoes just to kind of thicken up the cauliflower. I realized when I looked at my FitnessPal, the measurements that I used was for the already steamed cauliflower, and I actually don't have any steamed cauliflower or just plain cauliflower. But what I did have in my freezer was this giant bag of Normandy vegetables that has cauliflower in it. So I'm gonna pick through and pull out some cauliflower, steam it, and see if I can just add up the macros or the measurements and find out the macros that way for it. So let's see. My hope is to make at least 4 servings of instant mashed potatoes or of cauliflower mashed potatoes. So I want to make at least 4 servings of it. So I kind of got to play around and see how I can get 4 servings out. Originally, for 2 servings of the cauliflower mashed potatoes, I had used 197 of steamed cauliflower. So I'm gonna see how much frozen cauliflower I have, if I can pick out enough. I could just go to the store and buy a head of cauliflower, but I'm trying really hard not to have to run out in the middle of this and just use what I have here on hand. So there's the eggs. Let's check on those first before we get started on this cauli mash. I'm gonna let it go for another just 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna call it there. So the total time on the egg whites was 35 minutes. Let's put it in for the last 5. So rather than dirty another bowl, I just went ahead and put my pan and then this little steamer rack that I have on there. There's a tiny bit of water on the bottom to steam it, and then I'm gonna weigh in the cauliflower now. I could do a cauliflower like broccoli mash, but I don't know. I think the color might not be appetizing for me. So let's just see if we can dig out some cauliflower from here. Okay, that is about 300 grams there. I'm gonna stop there because I took out a lot of the cauliflower from here. So I'm gonna put it on my list to buy cauliflower next week. I'm gonna put this on the stove and get this to steam, and then we will add in the rest of the ingredients to make the mash. Our chicken is done, and the eggs the timer has gone off for the eggs as well. So I just took them out and put them here. I'm not too concerned with the eggs being completely, I'm okay if the eggs are just a tiny bit soft around the edges or even slightly in the middle, because I'm going to reheat them in the air fryer the day that I cook the sandwiches or the day that I eat the sandwiches. So I went ahead and took the chicken out of the Instant Pot, and I'm gonna shred it up and put it into our bowl that has the sauce in there. So I've got the bowl with the sauce on the scale, and then I'm just going to take my chicken, and I've got these little shreddy thingies. I don't even know what they're called, but this is from Pampered Chef. A friend of mine gave it to us a long time ago. It just pops open like this, and then it shreds the chicken up. So I'm gonna use this to actually just grab one of my chicken breasts here and shred it inside the sauce. And it's gonna, because I zeroed it out, it's gonna give me the amount of chicken I have in the sauce here. Also, because I didn't season the chicken before I put it in the Instant Pot, I'm gonna go ahead and add in a little bit of garlic powder just to give it a little bit more flavor. That is 521 grams of cooked chicken. So on MyFitnessPal, there is a, on MyFitnessPal, I have found a listing for cooked chicken in the slow cooker, and then I also will sometimes use the Ryse app. I know that I have mentioned that on this channel before. So here, this is what the Ryse app looks like. I will put a link down below for you as well. I've just started using this a little bit more than MyFitnessPal lately because you can add in recipes in here as well. I just honestly would go back and forth because, probably because I've used MyFitnessPal more often, it's still a little bit easier, but I've been pushing myself to put my recipes and things in the Ryse app just so I can have one app that I'm using on. So in here, there is actually a listing already for Instant Pot skinless chicken breast, boneless skinless chicken breast. And so that's what I use when I use the cooked portion of it. So I'm gonna zero it out and sprinkle in garlic powder. So I used about maybe 4 grams of garlic powder. I typically don't mind too much that portion of it. Like it doesn't bother me if I don't get that in the recipe. 4 grams, it's not gonna make that huge of a difference in my macros. But if you're like looking at maybe some other things, I don't know if the sodium intake or something like that would change because of this, but if you wanted to know, that's what I sprinkled in here. Then I'm just mix this around. So at this point, if I wanted to add more sauce to this, I could, because I could always edit my recipe. Or I could wait the day of and add more hot sauce if I feel like it that day. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna leave it like this. Here's what our chicken is looking like fully cooked. I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit, and our rice actually just went off too. So I'm gonna make sure that I stop that so that it doesn't stay warm. Let's check this cauliflower and see if it's soft enough to mash. It might need another minute or 2 there. But let me check in with you and see where we're at. So my ground turkey meatloaf is just about cooled all the way there. I'm right next to it, and they kind of just popping right out of the little containers really easily. So we can take those out and start prepping those. My rice just went off, like I said, so that is fully cooked, the rice quinoa mix. The eggs are cooling already. The chicken is mixed and done. I'm just waiting on the cauliflower to finish up the cauliflower mash. And then the next thing that we have to do is, with the chicken meal, mix together the vegetables. So there are 2 ways you can do this. You could just mix all the veggies together and then portion it out equally if you're going to be eating it within the same week, because your macros and your calorie count will even out. Because if you have a little bit more on one day, a little bit less on the next day, your weekly count is going to even out because you ate it all that week. Now, if you're going to possibly share these meals with someone else, you may want to consider doing it individually, or portioning it or measuring it a little bit more carefully, because like I said, you're going to be sharing it with somebody else, and so the macros can get a little bit just slightly different. You really don't have to if you're not tracking too closely, because veggies and the macros in the veggies are high volume food, so the macros on it are just going to change ever so slightly with just a little bit of grams on there, so you don't have to track it quite so closely. Now, because I am trying really hard to push through this plateau that I've hit and just give it all I've got for the last one, I am probably going to measure out my macros per container with my veggies. But like I said, you don't have to do it this way. A simplified version would be to mix all the veggies together and then just portion it out. But I'm going to do it but I'm going to measure it out individually because I want to be meticulous about it this time around. Okay, my cauliflower is done, so I'm just gonna put this to the side, the lid. We'll rest it on the eggs here. I'm gonna take this tray out, and we're actually gonna use this pan so that we're not, I'm gonna rinse it out, and we'll use the same pan so we're not using too many dishes. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump this in and then give it a quick mash. I know what the measurement was for the frozen cauliflower, so that's what I'll use for my recipe. But I'm gonna give this a quick mash in here just to break it down a little before we add in the other ingredients. And you could just add butter and milk to this, and salt and pepper, you know, to make your just to make a cauliflower mashed potato or a cauliflower with no potato, cauliflower mash with no potato. But I like the potato, and I have room in my macros for it, or I'm gonna make room for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in, I'm gonna use this. This is just instant mashed potatoes. I like to get it from Sprouts because that's the only place I can find organic instant mashed potatoes, and I think potatoes are on the Dirty Dozen list. If you don't know what it is, you can look that up. When we can buy it, we do. When we can't, we can't. So let's turn this on. I'm gonna put in a little bit of butter, but I'm gonna make sure that I'm measuring that. So I have actually just like maybe a tablespoon and a half of butter left here. I'm gonna go ahead and use the rest of it. So I'm gonna put it on my scale, press the tare button so it zeroes out, and then go ahead and dump that in, and then put my wrapper back on. So it's about 20 grams of butter. And I'm gonna go ahead and write that down because I'm making a new-ish recipe. So 20 grams of butter. So on my sheet of paper I had next to me, it was actually my planner. I had the original cauli mash that I had made for 2 servings. And then you can see for that one I used 197 grams of steamed cauliflower, but this time around I used 300 frozen. I used 20 grams of butter that time. I'm also using 20 grams this time. And then I used 48 grams of milk. I'm gonna go ahead and pour the milk in too. So we'll put the milk on the scale here, zero that out. Okay, that is 102 grams of milk. And I'm just using almond milk, the unsweetened vanilla almond milk. That's what we have on hand, so that's what I tend to use. But on the back of the box here, it gives for 2 servings, you want to use 2/3 cup of the potato and a 1/4 cup of milk. So that's probably what I put in there last time. But this time around, I want to double that up and make 4 servings. So now I'm going to put in 1 1/3 cup of this potato mix, and we're going to weigh that out too, though. I can already tell that's going to need more milk. Or we can add water as well. In fact, I didn't add any water, and it calls for 2/3 cup water. So let's add a little water to this. So that was another 1/2 cup. So total I've put in a cup of water. I'm gonna sprinkle in a little bit of salt just for some flavoring. And then what I'm gonna do, like I said, if you are not tracking as meticulously, you could just cut it in fourths and try to even it out proportionally. I'm going to start that way, but I am going to weigh it. So I already got my turkey meatloaves in the container here, and then I am going to start by just eyeballing and seeing what 1 serving gives me. So that's 130 grams there. Let's start with that and do each container 130 grams and see what we have left over. I ended up having about 60 grams, 160 grams of the finished product of the mashed potatoes, and then, like I said, 2 of these, and I think 2 of the turkey meatballs. I think what I'm gonna do is run out, and I have some frozen green beans in our freezer. I'm gonna throw some of that in here too. It already has some vegetable because of the cauliflower mash, and I'm pretty sure that I snuck veggies in my turkey meatloaf mix as well. But you know, can you really get enough vegetables? So I probably can't, because I don't adult like that nearly enough. So I'm gonna throw some green beans in here too. But first I'm gonna separate out the barbecue Chipotle chicken that we have into the containers and get that going too. Okay, so I ended up getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of about 100 grams of chicken in here. There's actually 104 if we want to be nitpicky. Of 104 of the recipe there. Here are the veggies that I'm gonna add to this. Like I said, this is the part where you can put all the veggies together and then equally divide it between your containers. But because I'm not gonna eat this all in 1 week, I want to do it individually. So I have some frozen green bell peppers that are already diced here. You can see I bought these from our local Kroger. I'm gonna use that. In this container here, I have some diced fresh onion that I did earlier in the week with our food processor. So I just cut it, quartered it, the onion, I quartered it and put it in the food processor, pulsed it a few times. I also have some chopped up frozen squash. This I bought a big bag from Costco, and then I didn't end up using it all in one of my freezer meal preps, so I laid it out on a parchment lined or a silicone mat lined baking pan. I laid it all out, and then I just froze it like that so that it would not stick together. So that's just a little kitchen help that I did, but you can always buy just a bag of frozen squash too, but we're gonna throw that in there. Same thing for these mushrooms. I sliced them up and froze them individually, so we're gonna add some of that too. Other container, but it's gonna end up being 50 grams of bell pepper, 50 grams of squash, 39 grams of mushroom, and then still about 15 grams of the onion. So there's a more accurate picture of it. I'm also to this meal going to add some quinoa, that quinoa brown rice mix. So it'll still get a little fuller even after this. Okay, let's add in the cauliflower and quinoa mix, or the quinoa and brown rice mix, and then we'll add in some cauliflower rice as well. You could just do brown rice, you could just do cauliflower, it's up to you. This is just what I decided I was gonna put in and what was gonna work for my macros. This is what it'll kind of turn out looking like. I don't have any fresh cilantro. I am going to get some in my next grocery pickup, but that'll be in a little bit, in a few days. So I could, the day that I cook this, go ahead, if I have the cilantro, go ahead and put that on there. I do have some dried cilantro as well, so if I wanted to put that flavor on there, or I could just leave it like this and then throw a little splash of lime juice on there. But here is one of the meals that we're looking at, and it actually is going to make 6 of these containers. So what we have going on here, so we ended up with, the royal we here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those 6 containers are all this. This is the Chipotle barbecue chicken with lots of veggies and cauliflower and quinoa brown rice mix. So that's what we have, 6 containers, all equal macros. Clearly I'm not gonna eat this all in 1 week, so what I'm gonna do is then wrap it and put it in the freezer, and then they'll be able to last me for even longer, and I can rotate and have more of a variety in the upcoming weeks. Then we have 4 meals of the turkey meatloaf, and then I did go ahead and add 40 grams of green beans to this. Same thing for this. I'll probably put 1 or 2 in the fridge, and then I will saran wrap and put the rest in the freezer, and then I will have those ready to go. And then I also have here, I just put in the little egg with green chili. So there are 6 of these little egg bites. You could totally eat these on their own, but what I think I'm gonna do, like I said, is put them, I'm gonna warm them up the day of, put them in the air fryer. If you use microwave, you could put it in the microwave as well, but we're gonna put these in the air fryer just to warm through, and then I'm going to do the same with an English muffin here, and then I will probably top it with, or in the English muffin, use a little of this Laughing Cow, the creamy light. So one of the wedges here, put that on, and then we'll have like a breakfast sandwich. I could also throw on a piece of like deli meat, and it would up the protein as well. So there's a couple of options you could do with this breakfast meal here. I ended up having up like a little sample plate for my husband. It was just the 1 extra turkey meatloaf and a little bite of the cauliflower mashed potatoes is in there. But that is it. That's gonna do it for today. I think it was a good morning spent just getting meals prepped and ready to go. I am a little rusty. It took me a little bit longer to get this done. Also with filming, it takes a little longer, but hopefully this was helpful to you. I know it'll be helpful to me coming up in the upcoming week here, just to have meals ready to roll. If you'd like to see what a typical day of eating is like for me, I do have one video where I didn't have a whole lot of pre-prepped meals done and I just kind of wing it, so I will link that one up for you. And then I am working on a couple of more videos where I will show you what these meals look like heated up, and just how that's playing into as I get further along in this little calorie deficit or cutting period that I have going on for myself. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and getting these meal prepped for the week. I really appreciate you taking your time out and spending it with me. If no one's told you today, you are deeply, deeply appreciated and loved. Thanks so much for watching.